A woman at a family gathering takes one look at her father-in-law and tells him he needs to go to the hospital immediately. He feels perfectly fine, but within hours he is undergoing life-saving surgery for a blocked artery that was about to cause a heart attack. She didn't have X-ray vision. She had spent years as a paramedic, and her brain had noticed a subtle change in the distribution of blood in his face. Today, I will show you how your brain is a secret prediction machine, and how mastering the invisible habits you don't even notice will determine your entire future. We like to think we are in control of our choices, but researchers estimate that 40 to 50% of our actions every single day are done out of habit. These are automatic choices that shape the minutes and hours that follow, like an entrance ramp to a highway. If you want to predict where you will end up in life, you don't need to look at your goals. You need to look at your current trajectory. Your habits are the compound interest of self-improvement, and even a tiny shift in your daily direction can land you in a completely different city. The human brain is constantly taking in information and analyzing the details of your surroundings. You are much more than your conscious self, and your body handles millions of tasks on autopilot, from pumping your heart to digesting food. Over time, your brain encodes lessons learned through experience without you ever realizing it. Consider the story of Lieutenant Commander Michael Riley during the Gulf War. He saw a blip on a radar screen that looked identical to his own fleet's planes, yet he ordered it shot down because he knew it was an enemy missile. Even his superiors couldn't explain how he did it, but his brain had cataloged a tiny difference in speed that his conscious mind couldn't name. This happens in every field. Experienced radiologists can see a stroke on a brain scan before any obvious signs appear, and museum curators can spot a counterfeit piece of art just by looking at it. You don't need to be aware of a cue for a habit to begin. This makes habits useful, but it also makes them dangerous because you can fall into old patterns before you realize what's happening. Micro hook. If our brain is doing all this work behind the scenes, how exactly does it decide which habits to keep and which to throw away? Every habit you have follows a simple 4-step feedback loop: cue, craving, response, and reward. First, there is the cue, a bit of information that predicts a reward, like the smell of a donut shop. This leads to the craving, which is the motivational force. You don't crave the donut itself. You crave the feeling of satisfaction it brings. Next is the response, which is the actual habit you perform. Finally, the reward satisfies your craving and teaches your brain which actions are worth repeating. In 1898, psychologist Edward Thorndike proved this, using cats in puzzle boxes. At first, the cats would move around at random, but eventually they would stumble upon a magical lever that opened a door to food. After 20 to 30 trials, the behavior became so automatic that the cats could escape in just 6 seconds. Your habits are simply reliable solutions to recurring problems in your environment. When you walk into a dark room, you flip a light switch because your brain has automated the process of solving the problem of not being able to see. Habits reduce cognitive load and free up your mental capacity so you can focus on other tasks. But what happens when these solutions start creating bigger problems? What happens when the math of 1% works against you? Here is the twist that most people never realize: winners and losers have the same goals. Every Olympian wants a gold medal. Every job candidate wants the job. Therefore, the goal cannot be what differentiates them. If you have a messy room and set a goal to clean it, you will have a clean room for one day, but if you don't change the system, the mess will return. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Success is a product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. If you get 1% better each day for a year, you will end up 37 times better. But if you get 1% worse, you decline nearly to zero. Consider David, a 32-year-old accountant who was frustrated with his life. Every January, he made ambitious lists: exercise for an hour, learn Spanish for 45 minutes, wake up at 5:00 a.m. He would fail by week 2 because he tried to change everything at once. It was all or nothing. His coach, Helen, showed him that the difference between who he was and who he could be wasn't a giant leap, but 365 tiny steps. She gave him a simple task: just Put on your running shoes every morning. He didn't have to run. He just had to master the habit of showing up. On day 6, he walked outside. And because he was already there, he jogged for 2 minutes. Within a year, David was running 30 minutes daily and reading 15 books. He wasn't lucky. He was consistent. David changed because he mastered showing up, but your surroundings can make showing up feel like a battle or a breeze. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. We think we lack willpower, but we actually just have bad choice architecture. In the 1970s, Dutch researchers found that some homeowners used 30% less energy than their neighbors simply because their electrical meters were located in the main hallway instead of the basement. When their energy use was obvious and easy to track, they changed their behavior. Visual cues are the greatest catalyst of our behavior because the human body has 11 million sensory receptors and 10 million are dedicated to sight. If you want to drink more water, fill up bottles and place them in common locations around your house. If you want to remember to take medication, put the bottle next to the faucet on the bathroom counter. In Vietnam, 20% of U.S. soldiers were addicted to heroin, but when they returned home, 90% of them quit overnight. They didn't have a change in willpower. They had a radical change in environment. They were no longer surrounded by the stress and cues of war. You can be the architect of your life, not just the consumer. Designing your room is the first step, but the final step is designing how you see yourself. The most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to be. The goal is not to read a book, it's to become a reader. Think about Daniel, a 32-year-old waiter who dreamed of becoming a business consultant. Most waiters did the bare minimum, but Daniel wore his uniform like armor and studied the menu like scripture. He read business books on his breaks, even though no one was watching. One night, he served Robert Chen, a legendary CEO. Because Daniel had been preparing for years, he was able to answer Chen's complex questions about organizational strategy right there at the table. Chen told him, "Opportunity is like rain. You can't control when it falls, but you can stand there with a bucket, not an umbrella." Daniel's daily habits were his bucket. He was ready when the moment arrived because his habits had already shaped his identity as a professional. Your identity emerges out of your habits, and quite literally, you become your habits. To avoid mountain paralysis, you should use the 10-minute rule. If you're avoiding a task, commit to it for just 10 minutes. Starting requires 100 units of energy, but continuing requires only 10. Momentum beats motivation. Your brain is a prediction machine that catalogs every cue in your environment. Success is not a goal. It is a system of 1% improvements. You are the architect of your environment, and every small habit you build is a vote for your future identity. Don't wait for opportunity to arrive. Build your bucket today. Stop waiting for motivation. Set a timer for 10 minutes and start one tiny habit right now. Drop a comment below. What is one vote you are casting for your new identity today?